Hi, this is Chris West with House Calls Vermont, and today we're going to be interviewing Darren Macri, who's the co-owner of Wythe Windows in Ramsey, New Jersey. This is a local, super insulated window manufacturer in New Jersey who's making a German style or European style triple glazed tilt and turn window, and we want to know more about it. So, Darren, welcome to House Calls Vermont. Uh, Tell us a little about your company and why you set it up.
Chris, it's my pleasure. Thank you, Jim. It's an honor to be with you both and lovely to always talk about high performance windows.
Great. No, it's just that when we're trying to do an assembly, there's so many different schools of thoughts on why windows are important. Sometimes it's just, okay, I'm going to see through it. I want to get ventilation, of course. And I want the cheapest price point. Most of the times those are the consideration. When we get into the high performance side though, especially since the high performance window is such a necessary component for the assembly, especially as we're building homes tighter, and there is a higher moisture concentration possibly inside the house just from living and cooking and cleaning and everything else. And then you get the big temperature differentials from inside and outside. Our concern is not just, hey, what was the cheapest price that I could get for a window at the big box store, or what was the prettiest window that I could possibly get at the highest price point, or do I actually have to go overseas and spend a lot more money, especially when shipping containers now are $8,000 each to get one of those across the ocean? What am I going to do locally, and what's going to be available for really the best type of window? And what we found, Darren, your windows are really fitting that bill for us. And if you could tell us a little bit about that, some of the concerns you've seen with just a regular double hung window, the regular type of windows that are offered by even some of the big players out there currently, and how your windows might compare.
Wow, there's a lot in there, and thank you for saying that. I mean, our whole reason in being is to be here to support folks who want those higher performance windows, to make that aspect of their project a lot easier. And I often say that when you're looking at a window, it is the one point in your building envelope where all your layers of your building envelope come into one component. Certainly. So it's the visual of your siding on your window. It's your thermal envelope, so it's your insulation. It's your heating, so because you can get free solar heat gain from your window. It's your ventilation strategy. So
because we want to reduce infiltration, and these triple glazed tilt and turn windows are the least leaky of all the windows available. So one of the things we're trying to do with Passive House and other types of tight buildings is know where we're bringing our fresh air in, right? And one of the ways we don't want to be bringing our fresh air in is through gaps around our windows, which can bring moisture and load the walls with moisture, which can cause durability issues. But also, we don't want it coming through the walls. So the window to wall connection is really important. The window to window, how the operable part of the window interacts with the frame of the window. That's all really important when we're dealing with tight houses.
For sure. And you said something there and made me think of something, and now I forgot it.
That's okay. In the ecology of windows that we have in America, so if I was going to go as an unknowledgeable person and I was going to go and try to buy some windows, my first choice would be to go to a big box store, right? Go to Lowe's, go to Home Depot, buy a gel win or some other not uPVC, but a straight up PVC window. And all of us have lived in houses with PVC windows. After 5 or 6 years, they start drooping, they don't close right. As the off-gassing happens with those windows, the solar gain sometimes can cause warping. So every time, if it comes out of the factory and it isn't a great window, after it's warped, it's like not getting better there right now.
Yeah.
Then the other option is to go to a Marvin showroom or a Pella showroom or an Andersen showroom and grab windows off the shelf. And those off the shelf windows have two two very important aspects to them. One of them is that these companies have stock window sizes, right? Window sizes that if you buy that, there's no upcharge, right? They call that an upcharge for customized windows, right? We're one of the things that I love about your product and a lot of products of that type is that every one of these windows is a custom window. You don't have 5,000 windows of this size over in a warehouse over there. And so the architects have to build it to that thing. No, when I call you for windows, I say, Darren, here are the rough openings, minus a half inch on every side, and let's call that the window, and there's no upcharge for that. So and by the way, getting a thermally broken frame that's also got triple glazing in it is not something I can get at a good price point from a company like Pella or Marvin. I don't even think Andersen even offers a triple pane at this point. But those are things that I'm looking for. So when, as a passive house consultant, when someone says, well, what windows can I use? Well, there are a lot of things. We want to cut down on that condensation. Jim and I were just discussing this with you earlier before we started the interview. We were at a customer's house the other day for an audit, and he says, during the winter, I've got that stripe of condensation at the bottom of my window. How can I fix that? And I said, well, you could reduce the relative humidity in the house down to like 5%, and maybe that'll help. But nobody wants to live in a house with 5% relative humidity. You're going to be horribly uncomfortable. I said, the only thing you can do is replace the windows, and that wasn't a priority for him or for what the audit showed. So that's what we're looking for. Well, that's what we have as an ecology. That's what we can do without something like a triple glazed European window. And when we go to a triple glazed European window, I only, until your company started, I had 4 or 5 choices, good choices, all in Europe, all requiring that I order them 6 months ahead of time, and that I pay, what Jim was just alluding to, a huge premium to have them shipped over, and the possibility that when they finally get to the shipment container finally gets to the port, that I have a 30-day, 2-month waiting as the process of bringing in products goes through the customs process. We have a very famous story of the Whitchurch house that they had to stop work on the house for 2 months while customs held up their window order in Boston. So these are all things.
Our company was born because of a similar problem, actually.
Well, tell us about that.
Well, I'm a passive house consultant, and I built New Jersey's very, very first internationally certified passive house. And I was working with a company that was an independent.
You can throw anyone under the bus you want to, by the way. It's okay.
Now, I was working with a company as their independent dealer, right? And I had my passive house building and consulting firm on the side, and then I was an independent dealer of these windows, and so I was using them for my passive house, and I waited, like you said, 16, 18 weeks for these windows to arrive. And I had a huge window wall in there, and they forgot to ship a tiny little piece that molds the windows together. And I had to wait another 16, 18 weeks for them to send that piece over. And I had a giant 20-foot opening in my envelope, and and I had to go through the winter with this. And it was incredibly frustrating and stagnating and costly. And he said, there's got to be a better way. I'm not the only person having this problem. And you got a lot of good folks who want to build great buildings. And how are we going to support them? How are we going to grow this industry? How are we going to build buildings that are going to reduce our carbon levels? How are we going to make buildings and the occupants in them healthier? And we can't do this with this model of shipping over windows and not being able to support the product, not being able to make custom configurations because you got to take a foreign language class to talk to the folks. So here we're making them here, and we're able to. And as you say, our plant is fully automated. So I can make one window for you, or I can make 6,000 windows for you, all different sizes, makes no difference to us.
No, no
Uh,
upcharge. I did want to just chime in and say there are people, having grown up in New Jersey myself, who would say that New Jersey is a foreign language. From Berkeley Heights originally, so
yeah, it is true, but unlike, well, I mean, if we were in Brooklyn, it'd be even worse, I guess.
yeah, yeah. So that was the impetus. Tell us a little about what you did. You bought some European window frame making. Tell us about setting up the company and about what you had to do to make that work.
Well, there was a lot of investigation and a lot of studying that needed to go into the whole process before we even, turned on, made the website live and said we're selling windows, because you have a window is made up of three basic components: your frame, your profile, and your frame, which is your profile for your sash and your frame, your glass, and your hardware. And so three basic components, but then there's a lot of variations within those within each of those components. And so we had to investigate our vending partners that we wanted to work with. We had to investigate our different options that we wanted to use, and we had to put the whole recipe together of what would become our window. So our profile is extruded specifically to meet our climate here in North America. So if you're getting a window, a high performance tilt turn window from overseas, that's actually extruded, and that uPVC is mixed for that market, for that Northern European climate, which we all know is more temperate than our climate here in North America. Our profile.
I just want to clarify, not North America, but New York and North, right? Because the Germany is like Washington D.C. and this thin strip going over and up to Seattle, right? There is climate zone 4 here, and there's climate zone 2 and 3. But for when we're buying windows for thermal reasons, right? That's when we're looking at the climate zone 5, the climate zone 6, 7, 8, etc. So I think that's what you were referring to.
Absolutely, and our profile is suitable to go all the way down to the southern tip of Mexico, to the northernmost of Canada, and be UV and structurally stable. So we have to actually put additional stabilizers into the profile to make it suitable for all those different climate zones. And then we also investigated the different ways. You say you get a tilt turn window, it's not the same. Just like you would say with any double hung window, right? You have the big box store double hung window, and but you're going to pay twice the price if you go to get a Marvin or. And speaking of which, Jim laid out that question earlier. We should circle back to that. Is what are those differences? What are the advantages, and what are the drawbacks of those designs, double hung encasement windows and wide tilt turn? And so we should circle back on this.
Sure, we'll get to the benefits of or the difference between Wythe Windows and the other European uPVC and other types of frame and glazing packages, and how those impact design. But go on with the story about setting up your company.
So don't dive into the components just yet.
We'll get there. Don't worry. But I just want to get the story. So you saw a need, you got a partner, you investigated what to do, and you if I understand right, you bought machines to make the frames, and you also import your extrusions. You're not making your extrusions here, right?
Exactly. Yes. So I was building this passive house. It became widely known in the area of what I was doing, and and this gentleman I knew in town, he and I started talking about different opportunities we could do together, and I suggested that, you know, windows, they need, the passive house builders in the U.S. need support with windows, and they don't have a lot of options. And so so then we started investigating, you know, going to shows, learning about the different those three different components we talked about, and discussing with our vendors. Then at that point, when we decided what the recipe would be for our window, then we had to figure out, okay, well, how the heck are we going to make it? So we started with a very, very small semi-automated production line. And so there was a lot of handwork and measuring and such that had to go into this production line. And we could probably do about 75 windows a week with that line, right? But within our first few months of being in business, we saw the excitement and interest in what we were doing. And we immediately, you know, reinvested and doubled down on everything we could, and got a fully automated production line. So it was before, you know, before a year was even up. So we got that fully automated production line, and on that line we went from being able to do 75, you know, frames in a week to being able to do 425 frames in 8 hours.
Wow.
And then now this year we took over the space next to us, and we have doubled our footprint. And we're getting another automated line. And so by September, we will be able to do over 1,000 frames in 8 hours.
Wow. That's what we're talking about. Now you can really pump them out.
Oh, yeah.
So Darren, are you doing help me out with the actual components? Because I know for some, they either source some of the components and then do the assembling at their factory, or they'll do some of the extruding for the frame material and everything else. How are you approaching this at Wythe Windows?
So we have an extruder that we work with, and they extrude the profile for us, and they laminate the profile for us with a laminate that is warranted for North America. So unlike some products that you may get in from Europe, those will be laminated with a foil that's appropriate for Europe and not warranted here in the US. And so we have a 20-year warranty on the coloring from fading and delaminating. And then we use, so we get the sticks in. They're just long, 22-foot long sticks. And let's say if you were to order a window, I would design it in the computer. I could design it on my phone. I could design it on a tablet. I could send it to the machine, and then as long as somebody's at the machine to load the stick in, then the machine takes it and cuts it down and mills in all the holes for the hinges, mills in the holes for the handle. So the handle heights really come critically important, because we do also a lot of ADA work for a senior living housing and such. And so we got to always be accurate about exactly where those handles are going to be. And so we eliminate all those possible human errors and mistakes. Those are all getting put in there, automated. And so what we designed in our computer system is what you're going to get. So you don't see the guys sitting there at the machine with paperwork like, now which side was the sash supposed to be on? Is the handle on the left, on the right? None of that's happening, because whatever you okayed is what's sent to the computer, and then boom, and that's what comes out. And then those sticks come out of the machine.
Just for clarification, the sticks are the frame profile. They're these uPVC profiles.
uPVC steel reinforced profile. And I should also emphasize, some of the things you don't see about our window are some of the most important things, like that steel reinforcement is you know, a lot of our competitors would use maybe a 1.5 millimeter L steel reinforcement, and we use a 2 millimeter U-channel steel reinforcement. And so we want to not only be thermally resistant, but we want to be resistant to the test of time. You know, you need to get the most out of these windows for a long time, and I don't want you to have trouble operating them or you know, any sort of movement in the window. And that's how, with that great steel reinforcement, we're able to get an AW60 rating, which means, you know, we can go into a high-rise building, you know, 30 stories, and no matter whether you're a single-family home or a high-rise building, you're still going to get that same configuration, and that, so you have that you can trust that you're getting that strength.
And that U profile, if I remember correctly, it has a U value of 0.1416.
So the frame. So the frame has a UF value. So this is just the frame area,
yep,
of 0.17,
right.
And then we typically use a glass of 0.12, and that's where you get kind of the UW of 0.14, 15, 16, depending on your frame to glass ratio. So the size of the window. So if you have more glass area, your U value will go down, meaning higher performing. Or if you have more frame area, your U value will go up, meaning lower performing.
Right. And that's what we see, that huge difference in overall U value, or R value, as a lot of Americans are used to talking about. A good Pella is topping out at an R4, and your window kind of starts at an R6, and goes up to an R7. And a lot of people don't know, but the inside surface temperature of the frame and the glazing is what comfort means for a window, right? That's why in houses that have crappy windows, like an R2 and R3, even an R4 window, they put radiators under the windows because they are just not good enough for the surface temperatures not to cause comfort issues in those coldest days.
That's exactly right. Yeah. And you'll see in passive houses that they eliminate the lengths of their ductworks because they're able to count on those windows being high performing. And so people often think, and oh, I'm getting a lot of air leakage from my window. And you probably are, especially if you have a double hung window with 1 or 2 locking points, and just a brush, that's stopping the air infiltration. But it's not only air infiltration that gives you that feeling of air movement. It's also convection looping. So you can be sitting on your couch, and you can have asymmetrical heat loss. So your heat is now radiating being pulled from the to the window,
because of the cold surface temperature.
Yes. Yep. And then that could start a convection loop. And so it feels like you have a breeze, and you can, and you feel very uncomfortable in a passive house.
We've described that to our viewers before. We call that cold fall, where because of the lower temperature of the surface of the glazing and or the frame, air hits it, and when it hits it, it cools, and then colder air is heavier, so it falls down, and that even if there's no wind coming through your window, you can still feel like there's a draft, even though that draft is not being caused by the outside.
Exactly. Well said. Thank you. And and that's one of the beauties of passive house design and our windows. They're going to eliminate. I think they're going to eliminate that feeling, and I think we have become so accustomed in our homes to being uncomfortable, to being, bullied by our houses. I'm going to put
That's a new term. Wait a second. Getting bullied by my house. I love it. I'm taking that one with me.
But it feels that way, right? I mean, you don't even know, you don't even know the things that you accept without realizing it. I got to put the plastic over my windows, and those little snakes or caterpillars, that they make them look all cute, and you put them around your doors because you're leaking air from your thresholds. I mean, all the little throws we keep around on our couches,
Right.
wrap ourselves up with. It's crazy.
Yeah.
The things that we do to keep ourselves comfortable, and then the complicated systems we put on top of that. Well, I mean, let's stop worrying about making, a smart home. Let's make, let's dumb down all the pieces, and use, smart design.
Smart passive design, things that don't move after you install them. A little more expensive to begin with, but overall you don't have to add energy to them to have them perform, which is what we're trying to move away from for sure. So Darren, we have the factory. The factory now has you just ordered more stuff, right? So now you're really bumping up that production. You are right now. We spoke a little while ago about increasing the R value of the glazing, the U value, because you're at about a 0.12, but we know that there are options where we can get down to like a 0.088 on some of those glazings. So give us an update on how those discussions are going.
Yeah, and I would say inversely too, we also can value engineer our product to make it extremely affordable for. So we're going into affordable housing in the city and NYCHA, and then we're also providing passive house quality windows to movie stars and clients with very specific thermal targets. So it's very versatile, and it's one of the great things about having your own factory, being able to innovate for your customers' needs and being able to deliver on those needs. In terms of increasing the performance of the window, there are other glass packages that we can configure. I configure all the glass packages in-house. So if you have thermal targets that you need to meet, or priorities that you need to meet, that we can weigh out those different priorities and come up with a design to fit that model.
Okay, so now this is the question that I asked the first time we met, which is now almost 4 years ago, at one of the Better Building by Design 3-4 years ago. We were in Boston for Passive House conference as well. What do they cost? So I know that Jim and I are both very excited about that part of it, because your windows, with all of the benefits, being made nearby, custom windows without upcharge, an R6 and R7 window, you're coming in at the price that Pella and Marvin are coming in for, like their baseline, not custom window.
And we're very proud to do so. That's our goal, is to make this product as affordable and as accessible to as many people as possible. We want to bring down the carbon that our buildings are producing, and we have to do that by lowering our heating and cooling demand. And one of the key ways of doing that is through windows. Yeah. And we are here to support you and your projects, and we're excited to do it.
So how can people get in touch with you? What's the best way for them to reach out to you and get a quote? What's that process like?
You can go to our website, wythewindows.com. That's WYTHE windows.com. You can email me personally at Darren, DARREN, at wythewindows.com. And you can call the office, 201-962-7444. We have estimators standing by.
Well, Darren, these are always... Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Jim.
Real quick here. One thing we didn't really touch on, and I know we're very short on time, is the fact that my takeaway from this is, this is all about new construction. And in reality, it really isn't, because that whole thing, that component that we kind of talked about but went over and beyond was the fact that every window is a custom window.
Yeah.
So if you have a 100-year-old house, you can still use these windows. And the nice thing about it is you don't have to pay a custom fee for, custom size fee, and you can get something for the older buildings. So consider this for replacement at the same time because of what's there is what I would say. Would you agree, sir?
All right. Thank you so much for bringing that up, Jim. Absolutely. I would say over half our business is replacement.
Great.
Because basically,
I just bought a whole truckload of replacement windows for my retrofit. So.
Thank you. Yeah, because think of it, with an American flange window, that's difficult to replace, right? But no flange, just pop it right in. And we have details, and we're here to help you make sure you get the best install out of that window, no matter whether it's a replacement or new construction.
Great. Well, Darren, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to talk to us. Hopefully, we'll do a couple, when I get those windows and we put them in the bucks in my house, we'll do an install video and share that with our listeners, but also make sure that you and your people can get that. And we'll talk to you soon. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you so much. Good to see you both.
Bye.
Bye.